Listening Library presents Zodiac Legacy by Katie Zhao. Narrated by David Shih, Elaine Wang, and Eric Yang. For every person I met in NYC who made this city come alive for me.
Long de 传人. They came in pursuit of a better life. They got much more than they bargained for.
Evangeline Long. I nearly saved us all from this wretched curse, and I will succeed next time. Chinese name. Long Yi Nuo. House. Dragon. Supernatural designation. Vampire. Role in heist. Mastermind.
Tristan Shih. We're talking about a potential war with our most powerful enemies on the horizon, and you're still being as much of a smartass as ever? Chinese name. Shih Jianqiang. House. Snake. Supernatural designation. Werewolf. Role in heist. Master of thieving. Nicholas Hu. I'm telling you, there is something monstrous out there stalking the streets of this city. Chinese name. Hu Junwen. House. Tiger. Supernatural designation. Fox spirit. Role in heist. Master of disguise.
Alice Zhang. What do I need my strength for? To walk 10 feet from one side of the cell to the other? Chinese name. Zhang Ailing. House. Boar. Supernatural designation. Question mark. Role in heist. Master of mind reading.
Part 1. 1. Somewhere. New York City stood on the brink of the greatest disaster in its lifetime, yet nobody knew it. Over a great many years, this steely city had weathered severe storms, battled global disasters, and prevailed against all doubts that it could continue to survive and thrive. Again and again, the city beat back fears that this or that catastrophe must, at last, signal the end of a magnificent era, and rebounded even stronger. New York City was immortal. It was invincible. Its influence was as certain as the rise and fall of the sun every day. If any force could topple this steely metropolis, why, that was likely to create a ripple effect of terror across all of humanity. This, precisely, was why New York City drew the interest of unspeakable evil. From the darkest corners and seediest alleys of the city, the monsters called Wrathlings rose and claimed the night. They were demonic beings with wicked talons, razor-sharp teeth, and dark red leathery skin. They were creatures that sought to spread chaos and disaster throughout the human world in their efforts to conquer and destroy humanity. They were subtle in movement, wielding the darkness like a cloak as they slipped into shadows and slithered into every corner of the city. Clever, too, were these abominable creatures. They targeted the isolated humans walking home alone from a late night out, homeless civilians who sought refuge in the darkness themselves. Before the victims could comprehend what was happening, let alone release a scream of fright, the struggle was over. The Wrathlings would discard the human body once it was devoid of life, and then something horrifying would happen. That same human appeared to walk down the streets as healthy as ever. New Yorkers were always in a rush to make it to their next destination. Seldom did they pause to lift their gazes from the sidewalk, to carefully observe their surroundings and those around them. If they had, they would have noticed that the shadows stretching behind some of these humans were not human at all. They would have noticed that with every passing hour, the streets filled with more and more ratlings and fewer humans, the monsters slowly but steadily outnumbering the humans of New York. And this still was only the foreshadowing of the reign of terror to come. Unbeknownst to the citizens, they danced to the beat of their own death song, orchestrated by something much eviler than they could fathom. On this night, just as the clock struck midnight, something peculiar happened. Humans all around the city stopped in the middle of whatever they were doing, jogging through Central Park, eating slices of pizza, carrying on in their apartments, and jerked their heads to the left side, their eyes flashing bright red. It was as though they were answering a silent summons that only they could hear. Like many organisms sharing one brain, these beings turned and walked out of buildings, down the streets, into subway stations. Crowding the roads, they all headed for the same destination in Brooklyn. In a seedy area of northern Brooklyn, recent news of suspicious deaths around a nearby creek discouraged the locals from loitering. But occasionally, an uninformed victim fell prey to the monsters waiting in the darkness. On this night, the creek was eerily still. Then midnight struck, breaking the spell. The waters bubbled from the middle, ripples spreading out and gently lapping against the banks. Out of the center of the creek, a slimy creature emerged. The waters parted for him, for he, the collector, had long since asserted his dominance over the grungiest corners of the city. The collector's form shimmered. He appeared like something out of a fuzzy film, a vaguely imagined sketch by an artist who had long since abandoned their project. More shadow and smoke than skin and bone. Slowly, he rose out of the creek, swampy water cascading down his body. His presence coaxed an extra chill into the crisp night air. He could still the wind without lifting a hand. Animals all around him scattered, highly alert that there was something frightening in their midst, something that should not belong on Earth. Some force of evil that was, in fact, older than Earth itself. Where good exists, there must also be evil. Without the dark, there cannot be light. This is the concept of yin and yang, which brings balance to the forces of the universe. The collector was the original ratling, accidentally created by the gods before they could even properly envision a monster. So he had none of those terrible talons and teeth, and possessed a form that was not quite solid. He was a draft of the final rendering that was to come much later, so to speak. The collector was not meant to be evil, but the gods had shaped so many positive forces, shaped the rivers and lands and life, that a single misstep, though necessary to balance the universe, was all it took to create that most wicked and fearsome of beings. When the gods' hands shaped the rest of the ratlings, so did they also create their strongest warriors, the Descendants, to protect the people of Earth from the chaos of the monsters. The collector, the most powerful of all evil beings, was intricately linked to the ratlings. They were his eyes and ears, his arms and legs, helping him carry out his dastardly deeds. As the darkness grew stronger, so did the ratlings, and so, by this connection, did the collector. It was that time now, when the balance of the universe was beginning to shift ever so slightly toward evil, and it was around this ancient being, their lord, that the ratlings gathered. Some of the ratlings were the faces of humans as part of the disguises that helped them blend into this world. But their movements were subtly jerky and unnatural, their expressions blank and drained of any human emotion. Other ratlings donned no disguises and appeared in their usual form. They were almost humanoid, yet horribly disfigured, as though the gods that created them had had only the vaguest idea of what a human looked like.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?